All right.
Welcome, one and all.
Yes. Oh, the game that is, it took forever to get here, but we got here.
It has kept us plenty busy, but it's all worthwhile.
If you don't know, this is the review for Earthbound Beginnings, also known as
Mother.
Yes.
When it was released in Japan on the Famicom system.
Yes.
Way back when.
Way back in exactly July 27th, 1989.
Oh, wow. I was just 5 years old.
Isn't that crazy?
That's just crazy. And it was a game, that we didn't get in America until much longer after the fact, because it was a game that was originally going to be released in Japan and America, but for whatever reason, it didn't get released in America, the version, until much later on when it came back out for the online store for, I believe, the Wii U.
Yes.
And that was where I first played it. And then came back and played it on the Switch as well with the Virtual Console. So all kinds of good stuff.
Yes, that is really cool, actually. I ended up signing up for Nintendo Switch, the Nintendo Online. And
yes.
I probably could have done it on the Switch, but we did it on the Wii U.
Nothing wrong with that. It's just awesome that they, showed love and gave us some official, translated American versions of this game that we were waiting a long time for. The longest time, if you wanted to play, Mother or Earthbound Beginnings now, you would have had to find basically a fan translated version, like a reproduction of it that someone did like a fan translation for, which is what we had to do with Mother 3 as well.
Yes.
Much down the line. Hopefully someday Nintendo will give us a official release of that as well. That would be amazing, but anyways, I'm going off on a little tangent. But yes, just glad that these games have been made available, that we American and English-speaking folk can play them.
Absolutely, and I think there's hope at least, right? Because we've seen it done with this game. So
yeah, absolutely.
It could definitely be done with Mother 3. So
yes.
Yeah, we
Here's
just who knows what's going to happen. So
yes, but on to our feature presentation.
Yes, on to the feature presentation. I guess we'll go in the history, and then we'll do the our history with this.
Yes,
if
absolutely.
there is any.
Oh.
Who knows? Stick around.
Yes, exactly.
Mother, officially known outside of Japan as Earthbound Beginnings, is a role-playing video game developed by Ape Incorporated and Nintendo, published by Nintendo for the family computer. It is the first entry in the Mother series and was first released in Japan on July 27th, 1989. The game was re-released in Japan along with its sequel on the single cartridge compilation Mother 1 and 2 for the Game Boy Advance in 2003. So, pretty cool compilation that the peeps in Japan got.
Absolutely. Why we didn't get that, I'm not saying I'm bitter, but
I'm bitter, right?
I am.
We could have got both for the price of one. So,
and to have it on the go, that would have been nice.
That would have been very cool. Absolutely. The game follows a young American boy named Ninteen as he uses his great-grandfather's studies on psychic powers to put an end to the paranormal phenomena spiraling the country into disarray.
Yes.
Writer and director Shigesato Itoi pitched Mother's concept to Shigeru Miyamoto while visiting Nintendo's headquarters for other business. Though Miyamoto rejected the proposal at first, he eventually gave Itoi a development team modeled after the gameplay of the Dragon Quest series.
Interesting.
Yeah,
I did not know that. Yeah,
I didn't either. Mother subverted its fantasy genre contemporaries by being set in an offbeat parody of the late 20th century United States. Itoi sought to incorporate standard RPG staples within the framework of a modern-day setting, parodying Western culture and Americana. As such, throughout the game, players use medication and hospitals to restore their health, utilize baseball bats and toy guns to fight enemies, and encounter aliens, robots, possessed objects, and brainwashed animals and humans.
Hippies.
Yeah, that's right. Mother uses random encounters to enter a menu-based first-person perspective battle system. Mother sold around 400,000 copies upon its release, where it was praised for its similarities to the Dragon Quest series and its simultaneous parody of the genre's tropes, though its high difficulty level and balance issues polarized critics. A North American localization of Mother was completed and slated for release as Earthbound, but was abandoned as being commercially non-viable.
Which makes me sad to this day.
Right? I would have loved to have this out
they
back
had
then.
it all ready to go. Just release it.
Just release it. Why not?
Give me this commercially non-viable stuff.
A finished prototype was later found and publicly circulated on the internet under the informal title Earthbound Zero.
Yes.
Though many critics considered Mother's sequel to be similar and an overall better implementation of the gameplay ideas, Jeremy Parrish of OneUp.com wrote that Mother importantly generated interest in video game emulation and the historical preservation of unreleased games. In 1994, Mother's sequel, Mother 2 Gigu no Yakusu Shu, was released in Japan for Super Famicom, which was localized and released in America in 1995 under the name Earthbound. Earthbound initially flopped in the U.S., that's surprising, but later gained a cult following and became retrospectively viewed as a cult classic. Earthbound was followed by the Japan-only sequel, Mother 3, for the Game Boy Advance in 2006.
Yes.
To commemorate the 20th anniversary of Earthbound's U.S. release, Mother was released globally as Earthbound Beginnings for the Wii U console in June 2015 and was released alongside Earthbound for Nintendo Switch Online in February of 2022.
Yes.
That's right.
I will say that Earthbound, or Mother 2, if you will, my brother and I were super excited for that game when we heard that was coming out, reading about it in Nintendo Power. So when it came out, we got it like as soon as we could.
Yes.
So it may have flopped for a lot of people, but we were super excited to get it right away. It was an amazing experience, and that's why once having played through that several times, when I got the opportunity to come back to play this Mother or Earthbound Beginnings or Earthbound Zero, if you will. There was just like a nostalgia wave, and I have to say, anyways, again, I'm rambling, but yes. Loved it from then. It's a shame that people didn't pick up on it right away, but I'm glad that a lot of people later on came back and, gave it the experience, because it really is a very unique trilogy of games. There's so few games that you can think of that go with a contemporary, modern-ish kind of atmosphere when you talk about a role-playing game. It's usually, monsters, dragons, wizards, saving the princess, that kind of stuff. To have it in a more modern environment, with all kinds of interesting things like that, just, I don't know, it really makes it stand out.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I found it weird, they based it off the US, but they never released it in the US. You would have thought, right?
Right? So they think we didn't have a sense of humor, guys? Come on.
Yeah, no kidding. My experience with the Earthbound series, I don't have any. I know that the game was heavily praised by critics and people alike, gamers alike. So much praise that it was actually included on the SNES Mini.
Yes.
So not only
SNES
that,
classic.
but the characters were put in Smash Brothers and whatnot.
Yeah,
so,
in the first Smash Brothers, one for the N64, Ness was one of the hidden characters that you could unlock, and he became, again, as being a huge fan of Earthbound, he became my main go-to character for still throughout the series. He's one of my main go-tos whenever I play Smash.
that is really cool.
So Yeah, it was really exciting to see it like cross over like that.
Fun fact, I actually just bought Smash Brothers for the N64.
Oh,
so I
nice.
finally got that game.
Yes.
So eventually will go through that. But
Absolutely. There's a lot of fun there with all the different character crossover, and then some of the hidden characters at that point were a big surprise when you got to fight them and see who they put in there. So, yeah, looking forward to that. That'll be fun.
Absolutely, once we get to that point.
Yeah, my experience with Earthbound started again from reading Nintendo Power, seeing like the different pieces they had on the game coming up, and then getting it. I'm trying to remember exactly when I would have gotten it, but I remember being in the store with my brother and my mom and my dad, and I was having it in the cart, getting ready to go, check out and get it. We were so excited, and it came in like this really big box. Usually the smaller like cardboard box thingies, the Super Nintendo came in. This one was bigger because it also had a full strategy guide in it, which again was a not very common thing by any means.
Yeah.
And those strategy guides themselves go for a ton. Just trying to find like one of those online.
They do.
Not to mention Earthbound itself is super expensive to try to get like an actual, non-replicate, just like an actual, just the game itself. So those go for, well over $100. So it's one of those things that, like you said, it became quite the cult classic. But I just remember being so excited about it, playing it, being excited with the idea of being able to name all my characters right at the beginning of the game, pick my favorite food, name my dog, all that kind of stuff. And just like the zany kind of sounds and music, and it just had a very off-kilter kind of kooky feel to it that I just kind of fell in love with immediately. So I was super excited later on finding out about Earthbound Beginnings and finding out about Earthbound 3. I'm sorry, Mother 3.
Yes.
Which, was originally going to be Earthbound 64 before that got, canceled. And then luckily they at least didn't throw it all away. They turned it into the Game Boy Advance.
That is cool.
But it was I was just so sad when I found out that Earthbound 64 was getting canceled back in the day.
I mean, that would have probably been the top RPG for N64 if that did come out.
It would have been amazing. And they had like some screenshots and some little things in Nintendo Power back in the day about that too. So I was super hyped. And then all of a sudden it's like they didn't talk about it anymore. And I was just like, what's going on? Where'd it go? Why now? So Earthbound for me has had a lot of ups and downs in that way and through my childhood.
Yeah.
But a lot more ups than downs. And the downs were usually just because other parts of it weren't being made available to us here in the States.
Yeah, it's just really weird how they started with the second one and then not continued with the third or released eventually they released the first. But you get my point.
Makes me think of like the Star Wars movies, Yes. How we go with, episode 4, 5, and 6 and then go back to 1, 2,
That
3.
is really strange, honestly.
But in this case, it would be like if they filmed the first Star Wars movie, had it all ready to go, episode 1, and then just said, we're not gonna release it. Instead, we'll just jump ahead, and then later on we'll release it.
Right.
It's like, no, you did everything. You had it all set to go. You say like that they thought it might be like a marketing, non-viable marketing thing. I'm like, have you seen some of the games that came up for Nintendo?
Yeah.
Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean,
oh wow, I didn't know
so many crazy games that like they're like, who's gonna buy this anyway?
Right.
Trust me, people would have bought it.
People, yeah. I mean, I just don't understand. It's almost like the redheaded stepchild of the Nintendo, like the way they treated it at least.
Right. They didn't give it a chance.
They didn't. No.
It's like, push the bird out of the nest, let it fly.
Let it fly. Yeah, honestly, the fact that I'm trying to go with what is his name? Miyamoto. Yes. The fact that he just didn't really have faith in it kind of makes me think like, okay, if you would have clearly Earthbound was such a huge success. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, not like sales wise right away, but eventually after the fact it did. Why wouldn't you have done the third one at least?
I know.
I don't get that.
I don't know why they haven't just made a translation for like an official translation. Like, there's been fans out there who have done it, which seriously, God bless them.
Yeah, they should get paid.
Yeah, they should. And they've done
do
such a good job. I believe I've even heard of someone's who have done the full translation, like offering it to Nintendo free of charge, and Nintendo just not wanting to use it, which to me is like, come on, guys.
Nintendo's weird like that at times.
Yeah, I love them.
Yes.
Don't get me wrong; they're
amazing.
My favorite video game.
Yep.
Systems down the.
They brought me to the table for sure.
Yeah. Yep. So I can't. I can't hate on them for a lot of reasons, but that doesn't mean that I can't criticize and find some of their decisions, vexing.
Correct.
But yes.
Correct. Yeah, just surprising that they didn't release the third one for sure.
Right.
What? Oh, excuse me.
Bless you.
Yeah, I agree myself. But I think I want to ask another question, but I'm going to wait until we beat the next two.
Sure.
Now, that might be 5 years down the line, but I do have questions as to why this series hasn't continued further, I guess, you know, past the third one. So
no, absolutely. No, those are good questions, and yes,
but
we will definitely.
I just want to say it like before, like, because I didn't have much history with this game, but I wanted to dive into it because I wanted to see what it was all about, and I thought it was really cool for a first experience.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, let's dive into the game, and let's go to let's start with the whole storyline. Travis, you want to dive into that?
Certainly.
Yes. Because this is like, you've grew up with this. You have way more experience than I played it, but I want your perspective more on this.
So when you start the game and it kind of sets the stage, you're just jumping in as, a young adolescent named Ninten, short for Nintendo.
Yes.
Yeah. But basically, you're waking up. You're in a modern day. I believe when you start the game, it says, in the year 1908X. So saying that was some year in the 1980s.
Yes.
Which, ironically, we were both born in the 80s.
Yes.
So we wouldn't have been quite as old as Nintendo at this point. But, we were, it still gives us somewhat of a reference point. But basically, you're a modern kid whose dad is off. He's like a traveling salesman, businessman, so we don't really see him. You're with your mom, you're with your two sisters. I believe it's Minnie and Mimi, your sisters. But yeah, you're waking up in the middle of the night. All of a sudden, like, the house is shaking. It's all, like, crazy, and they basically make a reference to it being like some kind of a psychic attack or like a poltergeist, I believe they say.
Yes.
So you're in there, and then you're supposed to get up and walk out of the room, and next thing you know, you're being attacked by your lamp, which has been possessed, and it all automatically just starts you off on a very different kind of feel than any other RPG. First of all, I can't think of any other RPGs, series that which you have to fight previously inanimate objects as often. You usually don't get attacked by a lamp, but right off the bat you can tell it's kind of different. It has that different kind of off-kilter kind of feel to it. You go through that, then next thing you know, you're fighting a possessed doll of your sister Mimi's, and then you defeat it. You listen, you examine it, and then next thing you know, you're hearing the first melody of the game, and you realize early on, because of the music box in the doll that's playing the melody, the whole screen, the color changes, you hear all these, notes and everything, right off the bat, you're thrust into a very different kind of world than even people who are used to playing RPGs like Final Fantasy, Dragon, Warrior, any of those. You're in a whole different environment that just kind of throws you off a little kilter, but it's familiar but different. So as you progress, you talk to your mom, you talk to your sisters, you talk to your dog to get the key so that you can get into the basement, and down there you open up some gift boxes, which is this versions of treasure chests in this game. For if you've played other RPGs, the Final Fantasy series, typically when you're searching around, you find treasure chests, you open them, that's where you get your items, and here it's always in these little gift wrapped boxes. But then you find your great grandfather's journal, his diary, and it starts you from right off there with finding different things about your past, about your great-grandfather, George, and his wife, Maria.
Yes.
I have to say Maria
Yes.
because she's referenced as Mary at other points in the game, but you don't necessarily realize right at that point that they're the same person. But anyways, it starts you off down kind of that path to find more about what happened to them. Because again, when you start the game up, it tells you a little bit of a backstory about George and Maria and how they went out and were gone for a long time, and then George came back, but Maria never came back. So there's all these questions, and that lets you down to the town of Podunk.
Yes.
And that's where your adventure really takes off.
Yes.
But just right from the beginning, like, you're set into an environment where you're not sure what's going on, your house is shaken, there's inanimate objects are suddenly becoming much more animate, and this whole ghost attack and the psychic nature of it all. So it throws you into something that just leaves you asking questions right at the beginning and wanting to find out more as you go off on your quest.
I had no idea when I started this game, like, what direction was it going? Is this like a survival horror?
Right?
Is this I mean, I kind of figured it was going to be an RPG. Like,
Yeah.
this style to me, the only game I really played that had this kind of style was Pokemon.
Oh, okay.
So, like, where you go in the battles and whatnot,
Right.
and then you walk around. But I got to ask you, what was the food that you chose?
Well, it's funny because in this one you have a lot more letters to play with, but I still couldn't figure out what I wanted to do for sure. So I ended up putting in peanut butter, but I couldn't put all the letters in, so it's just peanut butter with in the butter part 2 T's and then an R. I couldn't put an E in, so peanut butter.
And just to give reference, your mom in the game asks you what you want to eat, and like any time that you go back to your house to heal up,
Yep.
she asks you, "Oh, would you like some peanut butter?" Or in my case, I chose tacos.
That's a good one.
So I chose tacos. So every time you would have tacos or peanut butter to heal yourself.
Just the idea too. She's like, "I'll cook you up some peanut butter." I'm like, just the idea of her going through all the process of painstakingly making like peanut butter from scratch for some reason to me was just kind of hilarious.
Yes, right.
Like, you want jelly or anything? Nope, just peanut butter.
Just peanut butter.
So yeah, that was the one I went with this time.
Oh my goodness. And the other thing that kind of like confused me at the start was you had to check on the lamp, right? To get it to come to life to
Well, it's funny because like as you walk more towards the door,
yes.
like then it like jumps up and attacks you after that.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
that's right.
It's almost like you're sleeping, all of a sudden everything gets a little crazy, you'll hear like the shake, so you get up out of your bed, go towards the door to try to investigate, but before you make it all the way out the door, that's when the lamp comes and hits and attacks you rather.
Starts hitting you, yeah. And that kind of confused me going forward because I was always checking items that would not do anything.
Yeah.
Because you don't really, that type of experience doesn't happen basically for the rest of the game.
Sure.
Besides a few maybe instances.
Yeah.
So
There's very few enemies that actually have like an overworld sprite. Most times it's just random encounters. Mm-hmm. So like there's very few times where like there's an actual enemy you see on there that's going to attack you. Most of the time you're just walking around and all of a sudden, the screen goes black, you hear that da-da-da-da.
yes.
And you're in a fight.
Yep.
But with it having those different options, like in kind of like a dialogue box where you have your talk, check, goods, state, PSI, setup, all those different things, like you find yourself talking and checking almost, everything for a while. And even later on in the game, you're like, what can I actually interact with?
Yes.
And then sometimes you're like, oh, do I need to talk to this person? Or do I need to check this object? Or do I need to use my telepathy ability?
Yes.
So you end up like doing all three on things a lot just to be like, because you don't want to miss anything. And
correct.
it can take some getting used to.
Yeah. Absolutely. So, Travis, why don't you go into Podunk, because there's a lot of stuff that happens in Podunk.
Yeah, Podunk is your first town, and it actually gives you a lot of your direction early on in the game. You end up going, on your way there, you end up talking to I believe it is the mother of a girl that's gone missing. A girl that we will later find out her name is Pippi.
Yes, yes.
Clearly modeled after Pippi Longstocking.
Yes, absolutely. With the two pigtails.
Braids,
Yep.
The freckles, the red hair, and the fact that she's like strong and everything. So you go there, you talk to the mayor. The mayor kind of tells you about what's going on and basically tells you, and is pretty open about it, that he basically wants you to go find her, save her, and then he'll take all the credit for it.
Yes.
Which it becomes a reoccurring theme in the Mother series, is that adults being like kind of corrupt and cowardly and lazy and using people to do their dirty work for them, so to speak.
Yes.
In a lot of cases, children in this case.
Yeah, yes.
So you find out about her, and then you have to go to a cemetery to find her, because that's where she went missing. Because now there's zombies in town, which is kind of funny too.
Yes.
Because you talk to some random people, and some random people will mention zombies, and some people will be zombies and will attack you.
Oh yeah. This is pretty tough when you get to this point too.
It is.
Yes.
This is a point where you start to really realize, okay, I need to level up my character, because like in many RPGs, you get your characters to be stronger by gaining experience points, which you gain from fighting enemies in these random encounters and defeating them. And then when you get to a certain amount, you get your level ups, which will increase your different statistics, which will help you as you go forward. And in this game too, you need money, which you also get from these random encounters when you defeat enemies, because you need the money to buy better equipment. Especially at this point, it's really important to go from your plastic bat that you have, save up to get the wooden bat at the department store for like $500 or something, and that will give you a much bigger increase to your attack, which especially early on when you're all by yourself as an N10 fighting enemies, you need to be able to hit hard. Otherwise, you'll just kind of get your butt kicked early on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you're probably going to get your butt kicked from the point of your house to Podunk.
Yes.
But...
yes, no, that's a very good point.
You do level up even, with losing at times. It depends on the enemy you run into as well.
Sure.
So.
And the thing, too, is, like, if you die in this game, if you're reduced to 0 hit points, and when you're by yourself, that's not too hard to have happen. You go back to where you last saved the game. Only thing you really suffer is that you lose half the money you have on you.
Yes.
Again, when you defeat enemies, you get money, but it doesn't go directly into like your cash on hand. One of the kind of unique and modern things about this game is that your dad, who you can only talk to on the phone, he saves the game for you when you call him, but he'll also tell you how much money that you've earned from beating enemies that he put into your ATM, and then he'll tell you what your total amount is.
Yes.
That you can
Very
get.
helpful.
Yes, which is really nice. And then he'll also tell you how much experience each of your party members needs to get to the next level. Which is also interesting, because most RPGs that I have played, you can just look on your screen, like your status screen, where it tells all your different attributes and everything. And it will also tell you like how much you need to your next level up, how much experience points. This game, you don't really know. You kind of keep going until you either get a level up or you go call your dear old dad and he'll tell you how much you need to the next level.
Which is very helpful.
It is, yeah. It's
and
nice
he just,
extra information.
I mean, I know he's never home. He's the dad that's always working, but he's always filling up your account with money.
That is true. And one of the interesting
helpful.
things about your dad, too, is despite the fact that he's, again, not present, like if you're playing the game for a long period of time and like you are out and doing things, eventually like the game will kind of like stop and your phone will ring.
Yes.
And your dad will call you and basically say, hey, maybe it's time to take a break or to stop.
Yep.
Which even at this point, this seems early for the kids to be having a cell phone, but whatever.
Yes.
I'm not here to poke holes. But yeah, it's just kind of funny. So like he shows concern, but it's just, it shows kind of a conflicted nature of the relationship that Nintendo has with his father, and which I believe the creator of the game had with his own father as well.
That's kind of interesting. I like when the actual creators put their own personal life into a video game. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, so it's really cool to see like those different layers of what's going on. But yeah, you have to kind of take your lumps, so to speak. So sometimes you'll just kind of keep fighting until you end up getting KO'd. You'll have got levels and money and experience. As long as when you're trying to level up, you're not carrying a ton of money on you, it's not all that big of a deal if you get knocked out and have to just start from where you pick up from where you last saved. Because again, all your progress is kept. So, especially at the beginning of the game, you're going to find yourself doing that a lot. It's important to get that experience because otherwise you will not make it super far, especially when you go into like the cemetery area where there's a lot of enemies. A lot of enemies that can really beat you down or just... Well, in a lot of cases, it's just a kind of a war of attrition, and you go in there, you fight and try to get to the area before running out of your supplies. You have your inventory space where you have your healing items and all other kinds of stuff. But the tricky thing is that you only have so many slots. So even if you have all 8 slots in your inventory filled up with healing items, you're going to go through them if you're just hanging around and fighting everything you can, which early on might be the way to go. But also it becomes an idea of, okay, I have all this stuff. Can I get in there? Can I get to my objective and get back out? Or am I going to, get knocked out, have to restock on items and come back and do it again?
Yes.
So I can see why some people could get frustrated, especially
early on,
especially
for sure.
Early on. Yeah.
Yep.
And you have, kids, especially kids playing video games, probably don't have the same amount of patience as an adult.
Correct. Yep.
So I could see them getting getting annoyed and wanting to play something that they can just jump in and be strong right away. But again, with any RPG, that's the whole part of it, is building your characters and seeing them develop.
Correct. Especially early RPGs, too.
Oh, yeah.
I feel... you got to have patience. Even me, I got frustrated at times, but, once I understood how the game works,
right,
it started to click with me. And then...
Yeah.
It was fine after that. I didn't mind it.
Right. Mm-hmm. And when you realize that sometimes you just need to keep leveling and keep, doing stuff that that you're working towards a goal. It's not like a game where you feel like you're just wasting your time.
Correct.
When you put in that effort and you get those levels, even if you do die along the way, it's not like you just played a game for, 4 hours straight and got sent all the way back to the beginning of the game and now you have to basically start all the way over. It's like, no, you get to keep all your progress. Again, the only thing you have to make sure is that you're not carrying tons of money on you when you're trying to level up.
Yes.
Because you're going to lose half of it every time you die. But again, the system kind of works into that to help you a little bit because it goes directly into your account, not onto your person. And you don't lose money in your account even if you die. You only lose it when you're carrying it and you die.
That's right. Yep.
So,
which is pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, it's actually a pretty smart way to design it so that you're not finding yourself just poor all the time.
Exactly. I also love that you keep your levels that you've built up since your last save point, which is really good because you don't lose that. It just keeps on going, which is amazing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think that's one thing I like is I don't feel like you ever are wasting time. You're never wasting time or effort. You're always still building towards your goal. So you don't have to worry about, oh crap, if I get KO'd here, the last 2 hours of leveling up or whatever I've been doing is just going to all be wasted. It's like, no, you get to keep it. You just got to make sure you save the game again before you turn the game off.
Yep, which is very nice especially for this game did come out in 1989, so I feel like it was in the transition of a game that's super, super hard like they used to be when they first came out versus game that's difficult but beatable, right?
It's it's definitely a tough game, but it's a forgiving game in its own right too. And that's the thing, that you don't feel like the game is just going out of its way to be a jerk.
Yes, exactly.
But yeah, so you go down to the cemetery, you find Pippi. You find her actually in one of the random coffins.
Yes.
And then she joins your team, which is kind of an interesting thing. Now, she's a character that's your first ally in the game. She's different from, your mainstays, the ones you named at the beginning of the game.
Yes.
And she is not with you for all that long, but she can be really helpful because, A, she doesn't suffer from asthma like Nintendo does.
Yes.
Which, asthma, when you get hit with that in this game, Nintendo can't do anything.
Nothing.
So when you're by yourself and you run into, some of those trucks and cars that can do that, they do that, you're basically just waiting to get killed because you can't do anything. So having her there is helpful because at least you have someone that can either run to get you out of combat or take out the trucks and everything herself.
Yes.
So she's really helpful. Basically, you have to bring her back to... you go back to Podunk. You go back to her house where you saw her mother, who said she couldn't find her. And when you do that, then she goes back with her mother, and you move on to the next thing. Now, because you're trying to level up right now, and you're by yourself, it's kind of a good idea to use Pippi to go around and do that with you, to help you level up and make your success so you're not dying quite as frequently. The funny thing about her, too, is that she can actually get level ups with you, and she gets them at a pretty consistent rate.
Yes.
So one of the funny things is she will quickly become more powerful than Nintendo. Because, she just, like, goes sky high with everything. So I've actually heard about, like, people doing crazy things where, like, they've maxed, like, her level up and stuff just for kicks, I guess. And she's just, like, dominating. Just destroys everything. Now, the only problem is she's not with you very long.
Correct.
You do have to get rid of her to, like, actually continue past, like, the zoo area and everything. So...
And I hate to, like go forward, but that was the thing that made me most upset, because like she was really intricate in the beginning, and I almost felt like she was going to be with us for the rest of the game,
right? And
she's not. And like the way if you talk to her after she stops joining your party,
right,
it's like, oh, we're gonna meet again, kind of sort of down the line.
And you do, but not in the same way.
Correct.
Much later in the game, she basically lets you sleep somewhere for free.
Yes, exactly.
You think, she's going to like come in and save us, or she's going to join our party.
Yes, back to like old times, right? Yeah.
So one other thing that's nice about having her, she actually is one of the rare characters who actually has like an inventory space. The other characters who are temporary additions to your team don't have those. So with her, you could carry more stuff too, which is helpful for that whole kind of getting your level ups, getting ready to go to the next part. Again, she will take some of the experience. Usually, the more people you have in your team, the less each person individually is getting an experience. But early on, it's definitely still much more well worth it to have an extra person in there rather than try to do everything by yourself, even if you are giving them half the experience. So I think it's a good idea, you get to level. So once you get Pippi back to her mother,
yes,
you go back to the mayor, and he will actually tell you about now how the zoo is all crazy. It's all cray-cray. All the animals have gone wild and are attacking. So that's going to be your next big thing. You talk to his assistant, who gives you a key to go to the zoo because it's locked. However, before going there, you want to make sure to go over to the department store. I believe there's a pet shop somewhere in there where they actually are selling a canary chick.
Yes.
So this is how you go to getting your second melody, because again, as we mentioned before, there's melodies in the game when you talk to the doll after beating it up. The music box played back at your home at the very beginning of the game and gets you the first melody. The second melody comes from this canary, this whole process of getting the canary chick back to its mother. There's a canary, I guess, sanctuary that's nearby Podunk. You can stumble on it. But if you don't have the canary chick, then you're not getting that next melody yet. So knowing ahead of time to go to the department store, go to the, I believe it's called the Mother's Day Pet Shop or something weird like that. You can buy the canary chick there, and then you can bring that to the canary sanctuary. You give it to the mama canary, whose name is Laura, because why wouldn't it be? And then you learn the second of the 8 melodies. So you do that, and now you're ready to go over to the zoo. Now you're still playing, by yourself as Nintendo. If you had Pippi, she's unfortunately gone now because you had to return her to her mom to get to the next step in the series. So you go to the zoo. Now, the zoo is a tricky area as well.
Oh, yeah.
The enemies definitely get a lot tougher in this region.
Yes, hopefully you leveled up in the cemetery.
Yes. Level up with Pippi in the cemetery, because otherwise the zoo is going to make you not so happy.
Yeah.
But there's all kinds of crazy enemies. Anything from elephants and hyenas and tigers, and alligators, just a whole bunch of different things. So there's a lot of variety of enemies here, and actually you can get some really good experience here if you are, strong enough to survive.
Yeah, exactly. You got the alligator, the bionic centipede, the elephant, the fly, the gorilla, hyena, and the tiger.
I forgot about the gorilla, yes. But you're going through there, basically trying to figure out what's made all the animals crazy and to put a stop to it. Before you even get into the zoo, you run into a monkey that's by the gate. The singing monkey, I believe he is called. He has his own little cage and everything in there, and he'll be important once we get the zoo normal again. But he grabs your key, the one you got from the mayor's assistant, and just runs off with it. Luckily, in the process, the gate is opened, so you can still go through. But you go through, you're looking at all the different pens. There's penguins and all kinds of other random animals. But you're basically looking for the superintendent's office, the big building, to go in there and figure out what's going on and try to get these animals to take it down a notch. So you go through there, you get in the building, you get to the very top floor, and then you see what looks like a little capsule, kind of like a medicine capsule almost, just in the room. You go up to it and interact with it, and next thing you know, you're being attacked by the first real boss of the game.
Oh, yes.
The Starman Jr.
Starman Jr. Yes.
He's a little guy, but he's a tough guy.
Yeah.
In fact, he can use a whole bunch of different psychic abilities. Some of your first experience to them, which are, if you played other RPGs, are basically the PSI abilities are equivalent of spells in other games. So something can help, some can hurt. He throws a couple of different ones at you, including one that could hypothetically kill you immediately at the PK Beam Gamma. When you returned Pippi to her parents and talked to her, or to her mom and then talked to her afterwards, she gives you the Franklin badge, which is a very important item to have, especially when you're all by yourself. Because anytime someone uses the PK Gamma ability on you, if you have the Franklin badge in your inventory, it will reflect back at the enemy and kill them. So that can save you in this battle. If you don't have it, there's a very good chance you will get killed by that and then have to go back and come back again. You can beat him by normal means, the Starman Jr., just by beating him up a lot, but he is tough, especially after going through all the zoo, and your resources and hit points and PPs, your psychic powers points, might be low. So it can be a very tough fight if you don't have that Franklin badge on you. So my overlying statement is get the badge and make sure you have it on you. But once you beat the boss, all of a sudden all that crazy high-pitched noise goes away and the animals are all back to normal, which means now you can talk to the singing monkey.
Yes.
Who's in his cage, but you talk to the sign that says it, and all of a sudden it's playing. You hear those sweet monkey soothing lullabies, and you got your third melody. Oh, yeah. So what did you think of the zoo area?
I thought it was tough. Definitely tough. I think I died a few times. Not as much as the cemetery, because I kind of built up my character by this point.
Right.
But the zoo, I enjoyed that and the cemetery. Cemetery was a little more creepier, obviously. But,
sure. It's a different vibe.
Yeah. It was... You really get thrown at the dungeons right away in Podunk. Yes. Compared to some other towns.
Yep. Oh, yeah. No, I totally agree. You were thrown to the wolves very quickly and have to adapt.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it takes a lot of butt kickings before you're finally like, okay, now I think I can get through this time.
Yes, as you build up levels and keep on going. Yep.
Yeah. So if you're following along, you'd be at your third melody right now. Again, there's 8 that you get throughout the game before you can get ready for the ending, so to speak.
Yes, there's 8. Yep.
Yeah, it's one of those tricky things where sometimes you can miss ones and not realize you didn't. The canary one, my last playthrough, I completely forgot about.
Oh.
And had to come back halfway through the game. Luckily, you can't. There's nothing that's none of these melodies you can miss and not be able to complete the game. You can always go back to those parts and get them if you forget. So that's a good thing to know, because you'll see on your screen like the different notes on the bottom when you go into like your status screen. You might be like, what the heck, how did I miss this one or whatever? It's like, you can always go back and get them. It's, it might be a little stressful at points trying to figure out which ones you missed, but you're never going to be at a point where like you have to start all the way over because you're like, oh, I got the first two, but then now I've got like the fifth and sixth, but I never got the other ones in between.
Right, exactly. Well, especially with the dragon, which we'll get to. But
yes, which actually is coming up because next thing you know, after the zoo, you can get to a cavern actually that will get you to a very, very trippy place. You find a cave, you go into the cave, and there's a big pink curly like shell in there, like something you would find on a beach, but pink and gigantic. You use the telepathy ability on it, but you also have to make sure that you have your great grandfather's diary in your inventory and have opened it and read it before, because it will tell you the answer to the riddle that this shell puts in your head. And then it whisks you off to the magical land of Magicant.
Yes.
Which is definitely very trippy, very...
Yeah.
The first time that I got sent there, I was like, man, this seems like something that was like, the Beatles' Yellow Submarine or something, some kind of LSD kind of dream or something. What did you think of Magicant when you ended up there?
Magicant was really weird compared to the other towns that you go to. I knew there was something off about it with the way the people were interacting with you.
Yeah.
Plus the fountain where you meet the man, you do your melodies. The enemies in there were really strange. Four eyes, dad eyes,
Groucho,
mom eyes,
based off of
Groucho.
Groucho Marx, which I thought was pretty funny. Even the music is just kind of like, has like a very trippy, different kind of like, almost like, what's the word? Like wistful kind of like sound to it. It's very interesting. It's like, I don't even know how to really like explain it. You just got to listen to it. It's pretty amazing.
Yes, it is. And you get some great items in here.
You can actually get pretty much all the armor in the game. If armor we want to call it, all your defensive like equipment items you can get there. And it's one of those things that every time you get a new character, a new party member, you're almost going to be like, okay, let's make sure I got enough money. Let's get back to Magicant and get them, all of their good items. Because they have like the rings, the pendants, the coins. Now you usually think of your typical RPG game, you're thinking of like, oh, I'm going to get like a suit of armor and a helmet and maybe boots or shields. This game, your categories are coins, rings, and pendants.
Pendants, yep. And it depends on like which... There's fire, water, earth, all the different ones that you can kind of get.
Right,
depending
and
on
it's a little counterintuitive with the pendants, because if you would think, oh, if I get a fire pendant, it's going to protect me against fire. It actually protects you against the opposite of it. Yep. So if you get a fire pendant, it's going to protect you against more like the ice spells. If you get the H2O pendant, it's going to protect you against fire spells. And then the earth one protects you against thunder spells, like the lightning kind of things. So it's interesting because it's not as intuitive at first. You have to think, okay, it's going to actually cancel out the opposite element, not the same element as what the name of it is.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But yeah, and you can drop a lot of money there, but that's worth doing because it makes your characters so much more durable. But your whole purpose of going to Magicant for the first time, besides getting, tricked out in all the greatest gear, the greatest bling, is to talk to the Queen, Mary. You go up to her like giant seashell castle.
Yes.
You talk to the people there. You find some boxes there and can get some good items. And then you talk to her and you kind of get a little bit better idea of what's going on. Where they tell you that she's lost her ability to like sing. She can't remember the melody that she usually sings, which these are the notes that you've been gathering. We have 3 of them right now, but you need to get all 8 so you can sing the whole song to her, and then she can sing the whole song. They kind of allude to like that, that would be the end of Magicant, but they don't really go into depth of it, really. You talk like some of her like court gestures and just some of the random townspeople there. And it's just, a fascinating place, and you're going to come back here a lot during the game.
Yes, with the item.
Yes, with the item that you will be getting soon.
Yes.
So when you are ready to leave Magicant, this is another thing that can be really confusing if you don't know. You're like, how do I get out of here?
Uh-huh.
You have to kind of walk around and find this area where there's all these, they look like little wells kind of, and step over them, and one of them actually will take you down to like the tunnels kind of below Magicant, almost like this crystal looking cavern area. I don't really know if it has a specific name. I always usually just call it the tunnel. The tunnels under Magicant. But yeah, you go down there. You fight some different kinds of enemies there. You'll see a sleeping dragon at some point as well, which you can interact with, but you can't. He won't wake up or react to you until you're much higher level, which is good because he would completely
destroy you.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's a tough enemy even when you're level up enough to actually wake him up. But he's there. Later on, he becomes kind of important to get another one of the melodies. Mm-hmm. You'll also find some cool items just kind of laying around in boxes. It's a little bit of a maze, so you have to kind of figure out which path to take because you go down and then...
So it's going to be... So you have two entrances once you go to this part.
Right.
It's a right, left, right. That gets you into more of the hallway kind of maze.
Right, where you can actually move around because it's choices. Yeah, there's basically two different staircases or whatever that can take you down. One will take you down where you'll see more and you can go, and one will take you down to just an empty room.
Yes.
So you got to kind of figure out, and like you said, once you get it in your head, because you come back to Magicant enough, you just know kind of what you need to do.
Yes, you get it because you go so many times.
Yes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
But after you've gone by the dragon, after you've gotten all that stuff set, you'll actually see an area where you can go down. And there it'll start a fight with the fish, who looks way too happy, but and he's kind of a boss. He's an optional boss technically, because you don't have to fight him.
Right.
But you definitely want to, because when you defeat him, you get the Onyx Hook.
Yes.
Which is a very fancy, awesome item that you can use in your inventory when you're just on the world map. It'll immediately take you back to Magicant. So it's really nice to have, especially every time you get a new partner, a new team member that you can bring back there. Get them all geared up. And unfortunately, you always do have to walk out to Magicant the same way by going through the tunnel, going past, like the area where the dragon is, everything, and get out to the very end of the cave, where you actually will talk to the man who doesn't exist, he said. And you have to answer all these cryptic questions, only the first time that you leave.
Yeah.
But, and kind of basically agree to what he wants you to say, which is, that he doesn't exist and that all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
And it's actually a relatively long chain of dialogue. Yeah. So, but if you mess it up, you just talk to him again, you start from the beginning, and eventually when he gets all the answers he wants, he just disappears, and then you can finally exit. So it'll take you out a different cave, and now you'll be close to the town called Maryville.
Yeah, second town in the game.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Maryville is an interesting town because it is the town that you will eventually get your first permanent new party member.
Yes.
Maryville has a big school there, which is interesting because it makes me think, do all the other towns not have schools?
Right, it's the only one.
No one else getting educated? And around the area, there's also different factories that you'll be visiting.
Yes. You have to go to both.
Yes.
Yep.
And a big thing at this point is you can't go too much further because there's the train stations and the tunnels are kind of blocked, and the tracks are blocked in certain areas, so you can't take the train to go to other towns that are further away right now. Now, fun little side note is there is a crazy way you can actually get past it, but you have to walk through these tunnels on foot by yourself, which you can do, but is also really, really extremely hard to get all the way through because these monsters will tend to kill you pretty quickly. But there is a trick where you can actually go through, and I did it on one of my playthroughs because I just wanted to see what it would be like, where you can actually get Anna, the girl, before you get Lloyd, the boy.
Oh, wow. I did not know that. Wow.
It's fun to do.
Yes.
I wouldn't recommend it your first time going through.
Yes.
But basically it comes to a lot of, running away using the fourth dimension slip ability that Nintendo has to automatically get away from
Oh,
enemies.
sure.
Because you can't really successfully fight them as much at this point. But you can do it. It is kind of cool and fun to do. But again, it doesn't make a huge difference because it just makes some of like the factory levels easier to have 3 people instead of 2 people.
Yes.
But it was cool just to do kind of for the novelty of it.
Oh,
honestly.
absolutely. I did not know that you could
Yeah.
do that. Wow. That is pretty cool.
The first time I played through, I did it the normal, like, just got Lloyd next and then got Anna later. But this time I was like, let's try it. Let's just see what it's like.
Right.
And it's just kind of fun to have her earlier. But again, even after that point, you're still going to get Lloyd pretty soon afterwards. And if you get Lloyd and do the normal stuff, you're going to get her pretty soon afterwards. So it's more of just for like the fun little unique challenge of it.
Sure. Something different to do. Yeah.
But anyways, back after my little digression there. So you get to Maryville. Just like when you go to any new town, it's a good idea to check out the shops, see if there's any better weapons you can get.
Talk to the people in the town.
Yes, talk to the
There's
peeps.
always different storylines per town.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And it's fun just to hear all the random things that the townspeople have to say.
Yes.
And just pick up little bits of comedy.
Maybe call your dad to save again.
Yes,
Yep.
absolutely. Pull out money if you need it. Go on a little shopping spree. And then you basically go to the school. What do you remember the Maryville school?
I do actually.
Yeah.
Yes, you run into the classmates that kind of rip on Lloyd quite a bit. Yep.
They're not nice. There's a lot of bullies there.
There is.
They constantly refer to him as like the weakling.
Weakling. Yep.
Sometimes they call him the sissy and all this stuff, and I'm like, guys,
Come
not cool.
on, you don't know who you're talking to. Honestly.
Exactly. But so eventually you're talking to people and you want to get up to the roof because you're trying to find Lloyd. Because at this point you really don't know what you need to do to like continue. So you're just kind of following what you hear from the school where you keep hearing about Lloyd. So you're like, all right, you talk to people. You talk to the janitor there. He talks about his wife.
Yes.
You kind of like, rails on her a little bit, but basically he doesn't want you to like agree with him.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if someone's, crap talking, somebody that's important to them, and it's like, I can make fun of them, but you can't.
Yes. That type
so
of
you
thing,
basically have to like disagree with him. So he's like, oh yeah, like she's lazy. She stays home all day. She's like, doesn't she sound like she's the worst? And you'd be like, no. And she's like, she's not that bad, actually, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually, he will take you to the roof, which, again, is odd.
Yeah.
A little creepy, a little stranger danger there. But he'll take you up to the roof. It'll unlock it so that you can go up there. And then all you see up there is a trash can.
Yes.
And then a beautiful vista of all the area around. You see, like, the trash can move a little bit every once in a while.
Yes.
So then when you talk to it, when you actually interact with the trash can, you realize that Lloyd, the boy character with blonde hair and glasses, is hiding in there, hiding from the bullies. He tells you basically that he wants to get the bottle rockets. So that's your big clue that you need to go get bottle rockets. Mm-hmm. So this is a little confusing, too, because I was like, okay, where the heck do I go? And what's also confusing is that there's 2 factories in the area.
Yep.
One where you need to go, which has the bottle rockets, and then one which is like the Duncan one, which you don't have to go to yet, and is kind of one of the big milestones of the game of like where it gets difficult going through that.
Oh, wow. Yeah, Duncan is.
Yeah.
Oof.
So the first time I played, I definitely ended up going to the Duncan one first.
Yeah.
And not doing super well.
Oh.
So it's important to realize which one you need to go to. You want to go to like the sweet something. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but basically you go to that one, you get the bottle rockets, you bring them back to him.
Yeah.
Tell Lloyd, our good friend, he joins up with you, and then you have to go to the other one, the Duncan factory, to basically blow that the blockage that's on the road.
Yes.
So that you guys can finally move on to the next place.
To get to the train station. Yep.
Yes, so that you can finally get to the train station, which opens up a lot for you once you do that. What were your thoughts on the Duncan factory in particular?
Duncan factory is one that I died several times. I gained a lot of experience. I mean, I didn't level my characters up as much as you did, but I think I did more than some of the like speed beaters, that were just trying to beat the game quickly.
Right.
But I leveled up a ton at this point. Duncan's very long. I got every item.
And there's a lot in there.
There is, yes. Yeah. Tons.
It's so easy to get lost. It's like one of the things that people are constantly saying, like, I need a map for this one. So it is your first, like, real big benchmark. Well, I would say the zoo is probably your first, like, really, your first difficult area that really tests you. But this is just because of just the sheer size of it and how much of a maze it is. And then throw on that you have enemies that are tough. You have enemies that, like, will blow up when you kill them and then deal damage to you. Mm-hmm. This is one of the reasons why having Anna early was nice, because then I had I had 3 party members when I went there, and that made a big difference.
It was called Sweet
Little Factory. That's right. That was the one you go to first to get the bottle rockets.
Yep.
And there's just a lot of tough enemies there. And again, with the random encounter rate in this game, you can be fighting a lot of enemies in short succession. So it can drain you. So it's not uncommon to get killed a couple times.
Oh yeah, specifically the bomber, the old robot, and the scrapper. Those are the toughest ones for sure.
Yes, I agree. So this is a case where you might find yourself using the breadcrumbs item. If you use like the crumbs when you're there, and then you can use them to get back, or you can even use the onyx hook to get you out of there if you're almost dead sometime and you don't want to lose like your money and everything. Or you can just, again, if you get KO'd, it's okay. As long as you're not carrying tons of money, you're not really going to lose a lot. You're just going to go back to where you last saved, but keeping all your progress of experience gained, items picked up. So sometimes I just let my characters get KO'd and just come back.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Then I can save it, get myself resupplied and ready to go, and still keep all my gains. So it kind of comes down to personal preference in that regard. But yeah, there can be times where you're like, man, am I ever going to get out of this area? So once you do that, though, now you go in and everything's blown up. It's really helpful that Lloyd is such a whiz with all these random items.
Oh, yeah. Kids can make them work. Yeah.
Yes. So he blows that up. You can now get to the train station, which is really helpful because now you can go to so many other towns. You can go to towns like Reindeer, towns like Spokane, towns like Snowman. There's still some towns you can't get to yet. Ones that you can't go to until much further in the game. Like Youngstown and LA you still can't go to, but yet. But anyways, and by going to the train station, you can talk to people who will give you hints about your next character that will join you, Anna, the psychic girl. She is known to have a special hat that she has lost, so you talk to someone at one of the train stations, and they'll actually give you the hat, which you need to recruit her.
Yes.
So you can take the train. You have to pay whenever you use the train, and you have to pay more if you have more party members. Again, it's not a lot, though.
Yeah.
But yeah, you go all the way down to Snowman, and you can pick her up there. You find her. You have to kind of walk through. There are some snowy enemies in this area that are a little tougher.
Yes.
Wolves and the like.
Yeah.
So this is a case where sometimes, like, if you're feeling like you're not like really wanting to fight them, you can use Nintendo's 4D slip psychic ability. Yep, because that'll allow you to escape automatically from any battle besides like boss battles and stuff. So that can be helpful. Otherwise, you can, just run too. Try to run the old-fashioned way. But anyways, once you get through there, you'll find Anna's house. Talk to her, and then you use the hat item, and she will join you.
Yes.
And you'll have your third party member, and this is kind of your core team here.
Yeah.
Ninten, Lloyd, and Anna. Ninten is very effective because he's the fastest of the group. Mm-hmm. He's also the one who's always with your team.
Yes.
From start to finish. He's good with his different... he has the best physical attack out of these three.
Yep.
And then he has a lot of healing and like status boosting elemental kind of, or not elemental, I'm sorry, status boosting and things like that, and those kind of psychic abilities. There's some overlap between what he and Anna have, but Anna has a lot more of like the attack kind of psychic abilities. So you build her up, you'll get like the, PK Fire, PK Lightning, or PK Thunder, all that kind of fun stuff. So she's like you're going to be more of your damage dealer with the psychic abilities, where Nintendo is going to be more of your like kind of buffing your own characters. And they both have some healing ability, which is really helpful because, you'll find yourself using those a lot because your characters will take a lot of damage. And it becomes like a war of attrition in tougher areas. So
yes,
it's nice that they have that overlap where both of them can use healing abilities as well.
Which is amazing.
Yes.
Yep.
Lloyd is interesting in the fact that he starts off very weak. Mm-hmm. He never quite reaches like the same level of physical strength as Nintendo does.
Yep.
He is more of kind of like your wild card, more utility kind of character.
Yes.
And you actually think he might even be the slowest of the characters too, which kind of plays off of what everyone says, that he's weak and blah, 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 all that stuff. But he also has some unique abilities too. He can use items that no one else can, your bottle rockets, bombs. He can use certain items to a pretty nice degree. There's certain items that you can use, like I'm trying to think of what they were called, but there's different items that only he can use. Those are two of the big ones, but there's also like ones that can cause status ailments on people. And then at the end of the game, there's a really strong item like the flamethrowers that you can get certain enemies to drop that only he can use that can do a ton of damage. So,
I unfortunately never got that item.
Oh, you didn't? No.
I did not. Yep.
They are hard to get.
Yes.
And they're enemies that you can only face for a certain amount of time, because once you get your other character, once Teddy joins you, you won't fight those characters anymore.
Correct.
So it's one of the rare times where you're in this version or in this game we're fighting enemies to get them to try to drop certain items.
Yeah.
You don't need them by any means, but they're fun to have, the flamethrower.
I wish I would have had that. Yeah. Would have done way more damage. Yeah.
But so now you kind of have your core team.
Yes.
Nintendo is definitely your main physical attacker. Lloyd can do okay damage.
Yeah, he's a little below
Yeah.
Nintendo, but
Right. He's not as strong, but his damage can certainly be helpful.
Absolutely.
It can tip the scales.
You can win some battles with him.
Yeah, it's rare that you're going to want to attack with Anna because her attack is so low, and usually she has so much more utility with all of her different PSI abilities. Mm-hmm. Even if you're not like trying to do damage, you can use her.
She's the
her
healer.
magnet ability. She can heal. You can get her more magic back. Sometimes like if it's in a crazy situation, I'll just have her defend.
Yes, that's
rather
a good idea.
than
just have her guard. And,
the guarding ability can be very helpful. So you have your core, and now now that you've gotten her on the team, now it's when it gets easy to get lost, I find, and not know where to go next, because now all of a sudden you've had this whole area opened up to you.
Yes.
The trains are running.
Yes.
You can go to a bunch of different towns you couldn't. Your next area is going to inevitably, even if you kind of do what I did and wander around and level up because you weren't really sure exactly where to go, you're eventually going to end up in Spokane.
Yes. Oh, yes.
And this is where things are a little different, because like on many of the towns you've been to before, your Maryvilles, your Podunks, even your Snowman,
Snowman, yep.
You had a lot more town to interact with. Spokane is weird because like half of the town is basically deserted. Mm-hmm. The other half of the town will talk to you, but there's not like as much to interact with.
Yeah.
The only inn or hotel in town is in the haunted side of it.
Yes.
Which I don't know if you remember going into the hotel where there's the person that'll let you stay for free.
Yes, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yep.
You can stay there once for free, but then when you wake up, you get attacked immediately by a Starman.
Oh, yes, I remember this. Yes,
Yeah.
he turns into it. Yep. Oh,
and then attacks you, and then you can't use that inn ever again, which is a little annoying because
it was kind of creepy, honestly, how he changes. Yeah.
Yeah, and goes and attacks you, and you're just like, okay, wow. So when you defeat him, then you go further into the town itself, talk to people that tell you about the Rosemary House.
Yes.
Which I'm assuming is a reference to, the whole Rosemary's
baby. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
because that's all like the haunted house that you go into, because you hear people talk about a piano there that plays on its own.
Yes. Yes. That's very important.
Yes.
Yep. Uh-huh.
And what were your thoughts about the haunted house there?
Ooh, this is tough. Honestly, I got super lucky. I don't know why I didn't get that many enemies. So I think I got like 3 or 4 to get to my next objective, which is the piano.
Yes.
And then once you're past the piano, I think I ran into 2.
Oh, wow, yes.
And I survived the whole Haunted Mansion without dying, which was
nice.
Amazing. But
there's definitely, it's very easy to fall down the wrong rabbit hole and you keep getting lost.
The
whole time you're going down, like, you'll get to certain areas and then some like creepy, voice will basically tell you to turn back and all that.
Yeah, turn back, and it's also kind of a maze, so you can go into dead ends, but you'll run into items too, though.
Right,
so
and there are some good items to pick up.
Yeah.
So once you kind of find your way through and get to the piano, you just basically interact with the piano. It plays and teaches you melody number 4.
Yes, you get your 4th melody here.
Yes. So that is really nice to get that one. I always remember the first time I got through that, I was so relieved when I was finally done with it, because I was like, my gosh, I'm never going to figure out where I need to go.
I mean, the armor enemy, he's very tough.
Those are, some of those enemies, you're just like, why are they so leveled? Yeah, the armor ones are rough, especially if you have to fight multiple. You're just like, nope, I'm just running. I'm getting out of this.
So I think on my way back from the piano, I ran into 2 armors and I ran from them. I think I maybe fought 1, but I definitely ran from the second because I was on low health. So
and you just start running out of resources.
Yeah, just got to get out of there at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And then, so now you're at that point where you've taken care of that, and now you might be like, where do I go now?
Yes.
If you're high enough level, you certainly could go back and fight the dragon, but you're probably not yet.
Yeah, not quite.
So the next melody that you can get is actually in the Yucca Desert.
Yep.
Which is an area that I kind of forgot about early on, and when I got back to that area, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I haven't, like, how did I not stumble upon this earlier? It's a pretty big area.
It is. It's huge, actually.
Yeah, it's huge. There's a lot of, like, random skeletons, like, in the desert of, like, cows and stuff that you can interact with. But your big thing is trying to find the singing cactus. That's right, a cactus.
With the smiley face on it.
Yep. Yes, and it looks like it has, like, a big nose.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just hanging out there. You have to face a lot of tough enemies in the area that will poison you a lot, and a lot of, like, scorpions and things.
Bionic scorpion.
Yep. And then there's some weird enemies. I can't remember what they're called, but they look like some just crazy, almost look like Birdo.
Gabillion?
Yes.
Gabalin? I actually don't think I ran into that much.
Oh, no?
Yeah, maybe once or twice, but...
They can dehydrate your character, which, like, drops their defense and attack at the same time. They can make your characters feel all weird.
Oh, yeah.
All the different random status ailments. So, but eventually you'll find the lovely cactus. You just have to talk to it, and then it will sing for you.
Yes.
In this area, too, which can be easy to miss, there's actually a guy that you can ride to go on, what do we call it, his plane.
Yes, the plane.
And it'll take you around, and you can see different areas.
There's 3 different options, I believe.
Yes,
yep.
Like a shorter one, a medium one, and a long one. And it'll show you different stuff out there. But the funny thing, too, is that you'll get, like, tickets, and eventually when you get to a certain amount of tickets, you can borrow his tank, because, who wouldn't borrow a tank to a bunch of children? But the tank is important because you need it to get past that one giant robot jerk guy.
Oh, R2707?
Yes.
Or R7307. Yep,
yes.
That's what it is. Yep.
And when you get past that, then you can go to the monkey village thing.
Oh, yes. I forgot about that one. Yes.
Yeah, I completely forgot about that area and actually had to come back later to get there.
That's right.
But that was one of those fun little things that I was like, oh yeah, I kind of forgot that was a thing. So once you have done that part, if you've leveled up, then you can actually go back and fight the sleepy dragon, as I like to call it.
Yes, you're at level 25, I believe,
Yes.
at this point. Yep.
Yep, and if you're not, you just level up a little bit, and then you can fight him.
Yep.
He is a very tough enemy. There are little tricks that you can use to beat him. Or you can just do what I did and just hope you're leveled up high enough and make sure you got someone who's dedicated to keep healing. But basically, when you talk to him when you're a high enough level, he wakes up and says, yeah, you got to beat me if you want to learn my melody.
Yes,
If you want to learn my note. So he, there's tricks you can use. But in most cases, you're just kind of having to have somebody dedicated to healing. I usually had an N10, try to boost everybody's defense with the defense up, beta, so hit everyone, and then have them hit. Have the rest kind of heal when needed be. If I could, spare it, I would maybe make Anna hit him with some kind of a spell, but I didn't really have too much strategy. It was mostly just a game of attack when I can, make sure my characters aren't dead.
Just try to keep on, hitting them and healing, and I agree.
One of the tricks that I've heard that people will say that you can use is if you, at the high enough level, you can use the PSI block ability that Anna learns, and that it stops him from using any of his own PK abilities.
Sure.
So, if it's effective, because it doesn't always work.
Right.
But if it does, it prevents him from doing like PK Fire, PK Thunder, but he'll still try to use it. So there's times where he won't do anything on his turn because he won't be able to use it.
Correct.
That's a big one, and then you can use some of like the PK Freeze Gamma ability to drop him into like critical right away and then hit him.
That's a good idea.
That's another one that I've heard people have used. I think I've always fought him the other way because I just assumed those wouldn't work on him.
Right.
So I don't ever tried it, but I have heard that those work. Once you defeat him, he gives you the melody, and then he disappears. So
he's gone.
He's out.
Yep.
He gone.
He gone. He done.
And now it'll be a little bit before you find those last two melodies, because now you've got 6 out of the 8. But now you're looking around and going to some of the other towns. You're going to want to go to, is it Youngstown?
Youngtown,
yes, where all the parents have been abducted.
Oh, yes, they're all gone.
They're gone, yeah. Yep. So it's all kids.
Yep.
Has very much a feel of a,
This is the place where you can stay in the hotel for free, because he's like, I don't want to charge you. I'm so lonely. I'm okay with you staying at my house. So
I'm like, that's not safe, buddy. You don't know what kind of crazy people are coming here. But this is also where I feel like the enemies in general start to get a lot tougher.
Mm-hmm.
When you're going into like the swamp area, because you're trying to figure out what's going on, kind of trying to keep things moving, trying to figure out where the kids, where all the parents went.
The Titanies.
Yes.
200 defense.
Yeah.
Yeah, how many hits just to beat one of them. Oh, and then you get 2 of them or 3.
Yeah, you're like, why?
No. Yeah,
So this is an area where, and plus it's easy to get lost in that swamp area.
Oh, gosh.
But there's just a lot of tough enemies.
Oh.
So I found myself, fighting, leveling up, getting close to being dead, going back to Youngstown, and then rinse and repeat.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah.
You do find a building where you can stay, and in the swamp area where actually Pippi shows up again.
Yes.
So, and she'll let you stay there for free, which is nice.
Yes. Yes.
And there's actually like a garbage can outside of there where you can talk to, and you actually talk to Lloyd's dad.
Yes.
And it's funny because he like hides in there, but basically he also like asks you to give like your name. At the end of the game, that it'll be able to thank you.
Yes.
And put your name on there.
In that sequence at the end there, yeah.
So it's just kind of funny that's kind of what happens, though. So that made me laugh, that he's just hiding in there. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And then he talks about his own son being a weenie. I'm like, you're the one who's sitting in a garbage
can, yeah.
Pooping themselves. Let's just be nice about this. But when you get past through there, then eventually you'll get to
LA?
LA, yes.
Yeah.
Which I think is,
Which the swamp is so tough just to get to LA. It's like,
I know.
woo.
I was so happy when I got to
made
LA
it.
at the first time because now I knew, like, okay, I can teleport back there now.
Yeah.
Which that's something I should have mentioned too, is that in Youngstown you can actually get the ability to teleport.
This is huge.
It's
game changer
Oh my
for
gosh,
this
yes.
game. Yes.
You don't have to like walk all the way back.
all the way.
You basically have to talk to who I have deemed to be the psychic baby.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
There's a baby.
The baby, yes.
And that's how that has the ability and will teach it to you. So once you talk to them, they'll teach you how to use the teleport ability. It can be used by either Nintendo or it can be used by Anna. Either way, basically you run. It speeds you up. You have to go a certain amount of a certain distance without hitting anything, and then it'll teleport you to where you picked. So you'll go to any town that you've already visited. It'll take you. You can go back to your home. You can go to Podunk. You can go to. Well, if you go there to LA, you can go to LA now.
Yes.
So it makes things so much easier to get around and so less tedious having to run around.
Yes. Oh, my goodness. This changes the game, but I will say you have to have a huge amount of space
You
to
do.
teleport.
It's actually kind of frustrating sometimes.
It is. You'll hit the water or a tree.
It's hilarious
or...
when you like hit something because like everyone is like looks like they're completely like black, like all covered in soot.
Yes.
You just see like their eyes and everything, like they're like wide open. And that is something they actually brought back in Earthbound, or Mother 2.
Oh, interesting.
So it's cool,
okay.
but it allows you to get around so much better. And you won't run into any encounters while you're running too.
Yes.
So some people actually use it as a way to kind of like run around and avoid getting in encounters. My guess is it's probably used by people trying to get like low level, beating the game and having like lower levels.
Sure. Yep.
As challenges. I didn't really try to use it that way because I found it to be like annoying that way. But yeah, it's just again, like you said, it's a game changer in so many ways.
Oh yeah, if you made it this far, your life is about to get a lot easier.
Yes.
Let's put it this way. Yeah.
And then when you get to LA, this is a very interesting town too.
It is.
Yeah.
And I actually have some questions, but keep on going.
Yeah.
Once you're done with it.
Oh sure.
Yeah.
I was gonna say in LA is the place where it's kind of like the last real. Well, it is the last town.
Yes.
In the
last
game.
town before your final
Right.
dungeon, basically.
Right.
Yep.
This is also where you get your last character, Teddy. Well, not really your last character, I shouldn't say, because there is one that comes out after. But this is like your last of your main characters, named Teddy, who is an older kid, older than the rest of the people we have on our team. He comes off as kind of like almost like a greaser or something.
Yes.
You know? Anyone that has stay gold pony boy. He's got sunglasses on, everything. He's the leader of like their whole gang.
Looks like he's got a mohawk almost.
Yeah, he does.
Or like a high curl on top.
Right.
So that could definitely be the 50s curl.
He's a
do
tough
some domino.
He's a tough guy. Yes, exactly. He's like a tough guy who, I guess that he said was really nice, but then I believe his parents were killed, and that's why he's like kind of turned like this tough guy thing.
Yes.
So he's mad and leads this whole gang, and so they're like causing all trouble in the town. You can actually fight some of these gang members just by talking to certain people, and they'll fight you, and they'll keep fighting you as many times as you want to talk to them. You can get some experience, but the big thing that they can get is that they can drop the flamethrower items.
Oh, I tried.
Yeah.
I really did. I gave it a good 45 battles to 50, and I could not get that
Yeah.
thing. Yep.
It's weird. It's such a, hit or miss kind of thing.
Yeah.
Those you can use X amount, like a certain amount of times before like they go away.
Yeah.
But they do damage to like a decent amount of damage to like every enemy that you're fighting at the time. So they're fun to have. Mm-hmm. They're by no means essential, but it's kind of cool.
So you're saying they're a breakable item like Silent Hill Beginnings had breakable
Oh my
items.
gosh. Yes. Oh, that's a whole nother. But yes, you can use them like maybe like 5 times maybe. I think there's a random chance that they break. I'm not sure if like it's a set amount that they break, or if it's like you use it every time there's a chance. But yeah, they're fun to have. But once you find out that you have to go to like this club that's there,
Yes.
you go there. You have to talk to the one of the people there who will let you in if you have like the ticket, which I think you have to actually purchase from
In the shop.
Yes,
Do
like
not
on that
purchase from the scalper.
No, you will be sad because
I think she offers it's $1,500 from the scalper and it's $300 from you shop.
Right.
Which is crazy difference.
Yeah. It's really trying to screw you over.
Yeah.
But you go there, you talk, and one of the funny things that can happen is you can talk to some of the people there, and there's one who will there's one lady who if you talk to, like, she'll ask if you want to smoke or something.
Yeah, it's actually a drink.
A drink, that's what it is. And if you say yes, then the cop shows up and actually puts you
in jail. Yes.
And will also like take away like whatever bat item you're equipped with.
Yep.
Which is also annoying. But it's also like, why are we getting in trouble and put in jail? Why isn't the person who's offering children
a drink,
an alcoholic drink, why is she not in trouble?
Right.
Yes, I thought that was pretty insane. But anyways, eventually you'll talk to the people there, and they'll do like the show, and then you'll go up and you'll sing, because for whatever reason you kind of put you in the mood to sing.
Right.
Which I
very long sequence, by the way.
It is.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot of bebopping and scatting
It
about.
was.
And then eventually Teddy shows up.
Yep.
And challenges you to a fight for some whatever reason we don't really completely understand. But basically you beat him. And then he says that he wants to join you.
Yes.
But instead of joining so that there's 4 people, he decides that he's just going to knock Lloyd out of the team.
Yeah.
Takes all of the items that Lloyd has in his inventory, which is interesting. Lloyd still has whatever he's equipped it with.
Yes.
But like all the other stuff, and then he says, "Okay, I'm on your team now." Basically.
Yeah. I'm with you. I'm stealing all Lloyd's.
Yeah. Which is like, oh, I kind of just assumed he would join our team, but we'd have 4 people. But no, that's not how it works.
Yep.
Lloyd, or not Lloyd. Teddy's a good character. He's very much a one-dimensional kind of character.
Oh yeah.
But he really only can do a couple things, but he does them better than anyone else.
Yeah, damage. Yeah. Big time damage.
He does physical damage, really does a ton. He's got a ton of life. He also has he's also very fast.
Mm-hmm. Super fast.
Always
starts off the battles.
Yeah, he goes faster. Like, he's faster, stronger, has, better defense than even in 10, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So he's a good character to have and to hold on to for a while if you're trying to level up, say, Ninten and Anna. But the only problem is he doesn't stay with you for all that long.
Correct.
And you think because of like going through the process of you get to name him, you do all this other stuff, that he's going to be like with you for the rest of the game, and that you're going to have all 4 people, but you don't, which is one thing that I do have to say I was disappointed.
Yeah, I wanted that 4th member.
Yeah,
I think he would have been a great compliment, honestly.
Right.
So
you find out that you need him and that you don't get to have Teddy. Or you do get Teddy. You don't get to have Lloyd for a while.
Lloyd goes away, yep.
And now you're basically at that point where you're getting ready to go to the, close to the end of the game, where you're going to like the Mount Atoy area.
Atoy.
Where the enemies are tough.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a lot of them.
Yeah, insane.
Yeah, and you're climbing up the mountain, trying to figure out where you need to go. And eventually you get there's like a house that you go to when you're on your way up there.
That's huge.
Yeah, and you go through, you talk to the guy who's hanging out there.
Yeah.
And he'll give you like a lot of good items, which is nice.
Yes.
But eventually at some point you end up like wanting to like talk to Anna by yourself.
Oh, yes.
And you have like the moment where she like basically asks like if you like her or like if you're in love with her, and then you dance around.
I was wondering about this. This really came up fast, didn't it?
It felt like there wasn't a lot of a build up to it. All of a sudden she's like, oh, do you like me? Are you in love with me? And all that stuff. And then you like dance around. And you're just like,
it's a really long dance sequence as well.
Yes. And then And then when you're about ready to like go back and talk to our good friend, Teddy, all of a sudden, it just gets cray because that robot guy comes in and attacks and basically knocks everybody out.
Yes,
because it's a battle you cannot win.
Yes,
you'll basically be knocked out, and then you're about to be
somebody gets humbled.
Somebody gets humbled, and then what ends up happening is you end up getting saved by your good friend Lloyd, who has used the tank from before, but doesn't use it the best way, because not only he knocks the enemy out, but he also knocks out everybody else. Including yourself, including Anna, including Teddy. So when everyone kind of comes to it again, Teddy's basically no longer with you as a team member. Like, he's okay, he's alive.
Yes,
but you end up going back to now having Lloyd back in the group. So now you're back to your original three.
Yes.
The tricky thing is making sure like that you have all the items that you want to go back to Lloyd. Because what I ended up doing first was going back and then putting all of the stuff that was Lloyd's that was still put on Teddy's inventory when they switched, putting it like back into storage.
Oh yeah.
So I had to make sure I went back and got all that, and then came back to the building, and then went back up to the rest of the mountain of Mautatoy to find where there's a lake on the top of the mountain.
Actually, before you go any further, I want to go back to LA just real quick, because it's kind of like we're kind of at Mautatoy, LA kind of area.
Yeah.
There's a few things. So in the town of LA, you have to buy the berry, I think it is, and that's when you go to the observation tower.
Oh, yes.
And then you get that whole thing. And this was my question. You get, like, I think it's swear words and some other type of words, and you get an item. Do those do anything?
Everything that I've looked into and everything I've said is telling me that they really don't actually do anything.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like there's swear words you can get, they don't do anything. There's a couple different things, that you can get, but they don't actually have like any effect.
I was wondering why I got.
And it's super confusing because you're like, why do I have them? And then part of you wants to just hold on to them, but you don't have a lot of open in spaces in your inventory, so it becomes very confusing.
It does. I thought I needed them because they're like, oh yeah, I could really use a berry muffin or whatever it is they want. And you go buy the muffin, which is not cheap, by the way.
Right.
And then you go back to the observation, because this is how I did it, and then I gave them it, and then I got those words. And
you're like, well, what am I supposed to do with this?
Exactly.
Yes.
And then the other thing I wanted to mention in LA is there's a person there who says, oh, you should go visit the harbor. So I go to the harbor and I find a guy who's fishing, and he tells you the fishing stories, and you actually fall asleep while you're listening, but you actually heal up and you get your PP back. And so it's actually a good way to not have to spend money and still sleep and regain all your health and whatnot and your magic, basically. So
it's just one of those things where you're like, oh, this actually did something.
So I just wanted to mention that. There's just a couple things that are interesting in that town, but
actually made me think of when you go to Magic Ants, there's a place where you can get an ocarina there that also doesn't have any purpose that anyone has ever
what was that? I'm thinking Zelda, Melody Zelda kind of thing.
You can get it, but it doesn't seem like it actually does anything.
I don't
everywhere
think
I've looked. So they have some kind of like red herring kind of things where you're like, oh, I can get this, but what do I use it for?
What does it do?
And to my knowledge, there's been several things that have. There's really never been anything figured out of what they actually, if they actually do anything.
It's just strange.
No, but that's a good question.
But anyways, back to Mautatoy. Yes. Sorry, I had to get those questions
that's fine.
in. Yep.
So now you got your dream team up there. You're going up to the top of Mautatoy, working your way up, and you get to a point where there's like a big lake on the mountain.
Yes.
This is a point where you need to have Lloyd back, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be able to get on the boat, because he needs to fix the boat for you.
Yes.
Get it running again, which then you can jump on.
Just want to say, if you're in the Mautatoy caves, watch out for Cerebrum.
That
guy's a
That guy has such high defense that it's so hard to kill him, and he does so much mean stuff to you in the process.
Yes, he will try to eliminate all three of you so you can't do anything.
Yes.
He'll paralyze you or make you confused.
Yes.
Just all sorts of stuff.
He's a real jerk.
He really is. I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. But when you
Yes.
get on the boat and you see this kind of, gosh, what would you even call it?
Like a whirlwind tornado kind of.
Right.
Yeah.
You jump on it, you go down, and it takes you into this big factory-looking area.
Yeah.
So it looks a lot like, say, when we were, back going into some of those earlier factory areas. But you walk through, there's no enemies or anything, but it's a lot of walking through. You see a lot of fish and stuff. And then eventually you get up to where you see a gigantic, and I mean gigantic robot named Eve.
Oh, yeah.
In capital. All capitals.
Oh, yes.
And you talk to her and you basically find out that was basically built by George, your great-grandfather, to protect you. And she joins you in, once you have her on your team, she's on your team, but you don't really control her.
Yeah, she just kind of fights random or automatically.
Yeah,
yep.
But she's just crazy amount of damage. She attacks very quickly. She does close to 1,000 damage every time she attacks.
Yeah.
So she makes getting up to the top of Mount Atoy so much easier.
Oh, yeah. Level up with her.
Yes, level up with her, yes. Don't go too far because you want to make sure you can get your characters nice and leveled because you're getting very close to the end of the game now.
Yes.
When eventually you get to the point where you get really close to the top of the mountain, all of a sudden you'll get into a battle, and you'll realize that robot guy is now even stronger and is starting another fight. So she'll be fighting. She'll be trying to hit the robot. You'll be trying to stay alive. He'll be doing a lot more damage to the robot, unfortunately, he'll be doing a lot more damage to Eve, unfortunately, than she does to him, and eventually will kill her, destroy her. But she'll explode, and in that process, she will actually destroy him too.
Yes.
So she dies to save you.
Yes.
But it's sad because you lose her, and you're like, man, she was amazing.
She was. Yeah. Took out enemies in one hit, besides that big giant robot.
Right.
Yep.
And then when you talk to, you examine her body after that, and when you do that, you'll get your seventh melody.
Yep.
And then after that, you go to the very top of the mountain, and you'll see this area, this little, I don't even know really what to call it. It's almost like a tombstone, but it's not.
Yeah.
When you talk to it, what ends up happening is that it opens up, and you'll hear a message from your Grandpa George, your great-grandpa George.
Oh, yes, yes.
That basically tells you more about the whole idea of, what's going on, and tells you a little bit about the boss, the actual boss. It's the last melody. You get all of the melodies set, and then basically it tells you that you need to go back to Magicant to talk to Mary, Queen Mary.
Queen Mary.
Yes. So what did you think about the whole Mount Atoy process?
It was very interesting, especially when you get Eve for the first time, because you keep walking and you see all the windows with the fish and all that.
You're like, what am I going to run into down here?
Yeah, Mount Atoy is a beast, though. By far, I died the most times just trying to get to Mount Atoy Peak, but then the caves were just so stacked with enemies. It's just... I leveled up quite a bit, especially when you lose Teddy. You don't have that giant attack anymore.
Right,
so,
you really realize the difference.
Yeah.
Because Teddy is just so strong and amazing, and then you get Lloyd back, and you're just like, man.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm missing
dang
something.
it.
Yeah.
It's like you teased me, now I got to go through more and level up. But thankfully, before you get to Mount Atoy, you get that cavern with the life up creams and the infinite sleep.
Which is so helpful to have.
Very good. But it was a very interesting sequence, I would say.
Yeah.
To this point.
Yeah, and then you get there, you go back to Magicant. You can talk to different people there, but really it's all about going back and talking to Queen Maddie.
Queen Mary. Yep. This
you talk to her.
Takes a turn.
Oh yes,
Yep.
she, sings. You sing the song to her. She sings it back. Now she remembers everything.
Yes.
And tells you more about our alien friend who's caused all kinds of issues.
Mm-hmm.
Who basically Mary and George, raised almost like their own child.
Yes.
But you find out that he also hated music and brings even more pieces. And so now you're wondering what the heck's going on.
Yes.
You have all these pieces of information. Mary says basically, tells you more about the alien, who it will end up being the final boss. But also says that, that Magic Kent is basically going away and that she's going to join George finally. We don't know if George is in heaven or what, if she's still alive or what, but she was basically moving on to the afterlife. So now you have all the information. She's told you the song. We know that Gygas hates the song.
Yes.
And all of a sudden that becomes an ability now that you can use when you're in combat.
Yes.
Again, like we were saying before, you realize, okay, I'm at the end of the game now. I have this new ability.
Didn't Gyga or Gigu or didn't he say something why he didn't like something? He thought the humans were.
We know that he doesn't like George because he feels like George, basically was stealing his secrets of his people.
That's what it was.
And that's what, so he became paranoid. Yes. And so it became this question of who do I want to side with, so to speak.
Right.
Which is even more interesting too, because when you go there and you reach Gygas and he talks to you and he says, he even says basically everyone else is going to be destroyed. But he says to Nintendo, if you come home with me, and everything, I'll save you, basically.
Tries to get you to join him too.
Right.
Yes.
And it turns into that big fight, where you can't really do anything to him. Everything that he just does damage to everybody. You can try to do stuff, but nothing's really working. And then you realize, okay, I have to sing to him.
Yes. Crazy.
Yeah. Because he does a ton of damage.
He does. I just want to say, though, before you do get to him, you have that room where all the parents from Youngtown are trapped in.
Good call.
And you also run into Juana or Joanna, I think her name is. She's one of the toughest enemies. If you see her, run away.
Oh,
You'll die.
Yeah, she does a lot of damage. And she obviously shows up with one of the robots that can heal her, too.
Yes.
So that's
awful.
Tricky. Those are the kind of circumstances where I would take Anna, have her use the freeze, the gamma freeze, to drop her down to critical, and then hope that I could have Lloyd attack and do a little bit amount of damage to kill her.
Correct.
Because it would work a lot of time, but also then if the robot heals her, you're kind of screwed.
Yes,
so.
Yeah. She's back in the game at that point.
Yeah, so it's tough. It's really tough, yeah.
I'm sorry to
No, that is a very
there.
good point.
Yes.
Because those enemies towards the game, ugh.
Oh, yeah. Right before you get to Gigu or Gigus or...
Yeah, Gygas,
Gigu.
I know, yes. I've heard all different kinds of names. But yeah, so you fight him, you're trying to stay alive. Every character that you have can try to sing to him. You have to sing to him a certain amount of times before he'll finally basically run away and quit.
So I think it's 8 times that you sing to him. You can't fight him. Do not fight him.
Yeah, nothing's
just going to just use Anna to heal. The other 2 and guard a lot of times, and then just keep singing. I think it's 8 times, and then he'll ask you to join.
Right.
And then I think it's 3 more times after that before you defeat him.
Yeah.
So.
And then he runs off.
Yep.
And leaves the giant spaceship.
Yes.
So then you know kind of what had happened. You understand, his own being torn between the people that were raising him. Your grandma, your great-grandma, and your great-grandfather. and also how he hates music, and that's how you defeat him, because there's really no other way you can stop him.
Correct.
But you learn more about him, and he becomes feels less like an evil character, feels more like a conflicted character, too, who on some level does think like that, people are all worms and stuff underneath him on one level, but at the same point, like, you can tell that he's conflicted in his own right, and how he doesn't want to, on how he wants to, like, save Ness and bring him with him, too. So that's interesting.
That is weird, yeah.
Different levels onto him than you would expect. You think of him as just being like straight up evil without any different layers to him, so to speak.
Yep.
So when you do that, when you chase him off and he leaves, and then you get to you've beaten the game.
Yes.
And unlike a lot of Nintendo games, there's actually a pretty decent length to the ending in here, where you see all different characters. You see the different
really
people.
Cool.
Yeah. You even get to see him visit, you even get to see Nintendo home, laying down in bed and thinking about things. And then you get to see all the different characters. You get to see everyone's different story. You get to see, what happens with Lloyd and how everyone at Maryville school thinks he's their hero and throws him up in the air.
That was really cool. Teddy in the club.
Yes, Teddy becomes like a big singer and dancer at the club and everything. So it's really cool to see how they did that.
Yes.
Especially with a game like this, with an RPG where you put so much time in it, you build to it, and you get to see like an ending where you get to see everybody, and I don't know, it's kind of like watching some of those old like movies, and then you get to see at the end, like, this person's doing this
and that,
person?
And they went on to do this. That's what I really enjoyed about it, whereas like in the Mega Man games, we didn't really get much of an ending too much, but and just a little bit, but
so many old games, like sometimes it would just be like, congratulations, and that was it, you know? It's nice to get something that
this was really cool. And then the Youngtown parents are reunited with their kids.
They're home with their kids, and then at the very end, you get to see your dad talking on a payphone, basically, and talking to you.
Yes.
And saying like that something else has come up or whatever, and leaves it at that. So you're just like wondering, okay, well, what the heck is going on next?
Yes.
So it leaves you kind of sitting there wondering what else is coming up now, or is like he's just not coming home, or what's going on. So it doesn't really explain it to it, but it leaves you wondering. So again, glad there was sequels in the future, because it left you wondering.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Like at the end, like what does he mean? Like something else has come up. Is there a new mission or
right?
But then I did some research, and it's just kind of like it's mainly pointing to he was a workaholic kind of dad, which is very common in Japanese culture, where they just didn't come home.
Right.
So is it like that or what? But to me, when you're playing a long game, you think there's another mission. Does that mean Earthbound 2? But
it's so strange, because when you go to the Earthbound, you go Earthbound for the Super Nintendo, it's like a different time frame, but it's so interesting too, because some of the characters like Nintendo and Ness, they look so much alike each other too, but they're different. So that's so many things, so many questions to answer.
It's driving me nuts.
Yes, it makes excited to go back and play now to Earthbound.
Oh, absolutely, I'm excited for that.
So many questions to ask, and especially when you can look at that and compare and tie things together and see what, find different things that, kind of nods and winks to the other different games. So I don't know. But anyways, yes, very, very cool.
Yes, very cool. Very, very fun ending for a NES game or Famicom. Just awesome. I mean, I'm glad I did it. So the story intrigued me. It got better as we went on, and you gained the teleport, especially.
Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, some things like that just make it so much easier to get through and not feel like you're just like, oh gosh, crap, I forgot about this. I got to go all the way back on the other side of the map, and then got to come back here. When you get like the teleport, that helps so much.
Yes.
But yeah, what are your thoughts overall of the game?
I mean, I thought it was good. It took a while to get going.
Yeah.
And I wasn't sure like where it was leading to.
Sure.
And then I finally started to kind of get it. Once I got to like probably Spokane, I'd probably say.
Oh,
yeah.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually it was long because of the grinding, but it was shorter than I actually thought it would be as far as like town to town wise. But for an early like RPG, I thought it did its job.
Yeah, I agree.
And there was plenty of enemies. Some were pretty funny.
Yes.
My
gosh, yes. There's some funny ones for sure.
Yeah. So
everything from our hippies and the whatnot.
Yeah, Wally and
yeah. I think it's a game that has so much to offer, and it's one of those two where there are sometimes we're like, where do I go next?
Yes.
Where am I supposed to go? And
I think some people have tried to level up to like 99 level, which would take forever.
Yeah.
But oh my goodness, I can only imagine.
Yeah, that would take a long time.
Yes.
But hey, if they're for it, go for it, guys.
Yeah,
That's
why
awesome.
not? Do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess
I can't wait to play the second one.
Yeah.
I'll just say that. Yeah.
I guess we should do our good old fashioned.
Let's do our rankings.
Let's
do
it. I'll let you start us out.
Sure. Let's do graphics to start off.
Graphics. All right.
Yes.
I would say, knowing the game when it came through and kind of comparing it to others, I am going to give it a B+. I really like the graphics a lot in this game. The way that it has so much that it shows, how many different areas, and just, I don't know, the graphics of it just seems like it's above and like it's ahead of the times.
Sure.
If that makes sense.
Sure, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I love all that you can see. I love all the different characters. I love just the funny different enemies, and just the way that they put the graphics in there. I don't know, it just does such a cool job, and it's always fun to look and just say, where did they come up with this? Where did they come up with the ideas for this? And I just think that it's fun. What do you think?
I get it. Pretty open world where you can go to different towns, which I always love.
Yeah.
Graphics for this time, for an RPG of that level, I think I got to give it a pretty solid score. I think I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10.
Okay.
Yeah. Not like the most amazing graphics, but for this time period, I think it did what it needed to do, and the enemies were awesome, and the final boss looks pretty cool.
Yeah.
And a lot of the other enemies like Magicant, you find the Groucho and the Dead Eyes.
Yes.
But then you had the Grizzly, the Bigfoot, all sorts of different enemies. Alligator, Bison. Bison had a funny smile on it too.
Oh
when
my
you
gosh!
fought it.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's just a lot of funny, humorous touches to it. So I go 7.5 for graphics. What do you got for sound?
Sound. I actually really like the sound in a lot of this game.
Yeah.
It's interesting. It's so much just fun, different songs. Whether it's just being out on the world map or just sometimes the fight, being in the battles and stuff.
Yes.
Love the hippie. And the music there. So I just love it, and it's so cool that they took some of these different songs and sounds, and the Super Nintendo, when you play Earthbound, you get some of these same kind of songs, but they're just I don't know, they just sound cooler being
a little more modernized with the 16-bit.
But you get some of the same kind of songs. It's just kind of cool to hear them on the Nintendo and then on the Super Nintendo. And
sure.
So I am going to give that a B.
Not bad.
Very good, yes.
Yeah. I actually think the soundtrack was really good.
Yeah.
From the different enemies you got with different ones to the dungeon levels that made it feel more dark.
Yeah.
More brooding, I guess, or I don't know, more sinister sometimes. But then you would go and fight some enemies, it would be kind of funny and more like that. So the mood, plus when you were in the towns, it was different, all that. So actually I give it an 8.5 out of 10. I think
nice.
It did really good job with the sound. I thought it was a really good soundtrack. A lot of different tunes, especially with the melodies too.
Yes,
so
I agree.
That was really cool. let's do longevity, lasting appeal, kind of. Yeah,
it's an
replayability.
Yes,
that's what I was looking for. Yes,
I actually like it a lot because there's a lot of different things you can do. You can go into come from different directions. Sometimes do different things. Like for me, going and getting Anna first and going through like the tunnels and everything, you can do things in different orders, so you don't have to do it the same way every time you play through.
Yeah.
So because of that, I feel like it's fun coming back and trying it with different parties, doing thing in different order. So basically, I would say I would give it another. I'm gonna say A.
Oh wow, nice!
Yes, because there's so much you can do, and it's not one of those things where you feel like you've done and you don't want to come back and try it again.
Right.
I feel like you can do things different every time, and you can really just get a lot of variety.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
yeah.
What do you think?
I think there is ways you can go there. It's pretty open as far as how you want to do it.
Yeah.
I think it would be interesting to kind of just go willy-nilly and just go wherever you feel like.
Right.
And just, if you're okay with getting a lot of battles, and building up your character, I think that would work. If you want to go to like the reindeer Spokane snowman and, watch out for getting a cold and getting that mouthwash, you can do that.
Yes.
If you want to try to go to, Youngstown in LA before you get, to a certain point, you can do that. You can try to go for the 99 level.
Yes.
You can do that. So,
yes.
there is a lot you could do in this game. It's, story's pretty linear, but the world is open. So I'm going to give it like a 7.5 out of 10. Yep.
Sure.
There's things you can do to achieve, more. So there were some things that you just said that I didn't realize. So
right.
So yeah, there's more you can do with this. So let's go fun level.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I would say, again, I'm a little bit of a fan, so I would say probably what do you think first?
Well, I think there's a curve to it.
Sure.
If you're not used to the bunch of the battles, grinding. But once you get to that point, you kind of understand it more.
Right.
So I'm going to go a 7.7. Because I'm in between a 7.5 and an 8. So we'll go 7.7.
Yeah, no, I think that's fair.
Yes.
I would say probably, a B.
Yes.
I think that, like you said, there's certain parts that are very difficult.
Yes.
And then there's part where you're like, okay, this isn't too bad. So it's a lot of like up and down.
It really is.
So I would say, I would say a B.
Some parts are slower than others.
Right. And some a lot harder.
It's
just trying to get past some of those parts that are confusing or just tough.
Yes.
Yeah. And then once you kind of get used to it, you know how, I don't know, how to plan a little bit better and, when you need to grind a little bit and get those levels up or not. So
exactly. Difficulty.
That is another fun one. Because just like with the fun, there's parts that are not too bad, and then there's some parts that are very difficult. So overall, I would say that I would give it a B plus as far as being difficult. Sometimes it can be very tough and very frustrating. And I think that can turn some people off if they're not being persistent. I think you need to be persistent and get past some of those difficult parts and make sure that you're leveling up. And then the difficulty isn't so bad, but there are times where it can really be tough. So I would say that the difficulty is high, but it's just, again, being persistent.
Yeah.
So I think, a B plus.
B plus. Yeah, that makes sense. It's difficult, but it's the cool thing is even if you die, you save the stats that you went down with. That's the biggest difference between this and, let's say, like a super tough game like Super Ghouls and Ghosts. Game like that. This, you keep everything even though you die. It's difficult, but not too frustrating. Pull out my hair. So I'm going to go like a 7 out of 10.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair.
Not super difficult, but difficult enough.
Yeah,
because there's definitely a lot of dungeons that'll, they're tough.
Oh, sure.
So you really got to build up. Story.
I do love the story. I wish there was a little bit more explanation here and there, but I really do love all the different pieces of the puzzle there. Especially thinking of it being an NES game and not a Super Nintendo game or something where there might be more of that later on. I really do find a lot of value in the story. So I would give the story a B as well.
Yes.
I think there's still some things that I wish I had answers to, but I love it because it makes me think of all the different things and kind of try to connect all the dots.
Yeah.
I love the story that they're telling. I do wish that there was more of it.
Yeah.
It makes me want more, but for being a Nintendo game, I'm not as surprised that there are certain things that I'm left wondering about.
Right.
But I do love the story. I love, I just love the whole thing, modern kind of feel to it, and some of the little twists and turns that you're not really expecting. So, yeah.
I agree.
I give it a B.
I agree. I think there's some that were kind of rushed, like the storyline with Nintine and Anna.
Right.
We could have used more of that. I kind of want to know more about the dad, obviously with the ending the way it did.
Right.
But the Vegas kind of cool too, because I haven't played the sequels yet, so maybe there will be something in there, even though I've heard they're not really related. But I think the story did its job for the most part. They did what they could do with the Nintendo.
Right.
I'm going to go... I keep giving the score out a lot, but I'm going to go 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
Just room for improvement.
Sure.
But it kept me engaged nonetheless, because there was a lot of different storylines going on here.
Yeah.
So, overall.
Overall, I want to give this game a B plus. Again, I'm a nerd for these kinds of games. I'm a huge Earthbound fan, and I just have to say, I love it so much. It's just so unique. Takes the common idea of an RPG, but it also just really brings it from all different kinds of angles that you wouldn't really expect. The feel of the modernness to it, the amazing music and sound effects, the humor that they throw in.
Absolutely.
The difficulty, I should say, but also the rewarding feeling of getting past those difficult times and building your characters up. I just am a humongous fan of this, and it's probably out of NES RPGs I've played, probably my favorite. Even more so of the original Final Fantasy game, which I was a humongous fan of back in the day too.
Sure.
I don't know. I just really love everything that this game brings, and I think that it's one of those that I'm so sad that we didn't get early on. When I was younger and everything, would have been fun to be able to play back then. But I'm so glad, that eventually it got released on the Switch and on the Wii U, so that we can. I can't speak highly enough about it. What do you think? What is your final overall grade?
Overall, it was a game where at first there was so much grinding, it kind of was overwhelming at first.
Sure.
So I had to get used to that. I was used to that aspect with Pokemon because it's similar. But with Pokemon, you're trying to actually catch your enemies. So that's kind of what made it different. But once you start getting going and you start leveling up and you start gaining those psi abilities, it becomes so much more fun. And you go to the different towns and just interacting. Each town kind of has its own character to it.
Oh, sure.
So, which I really liked that aspect. the humor, like you said,
Oh,
the different
yes.
enemy types. Some of them
Yes.
just looked funny, and like when you deal with the hippie and Wally, and they have different music to them,
Oh
which
my
is so
gosh,
cool.
yes.
And then Magicant, which kind of is just such a strange town.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And then you finally get the whole story. So, this game really has a charm to it, so to
Yeah.
speak. So, I respected that. I'm going to give it, I'm going to go 7.5 again.
enough.
Yes. But
Fair
I'm
enough.
excited to play 2 and 3 though.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm excited to see where this series goes. So especially, I don't have that nostalgia like you do,
Sure.
which I kind of regret because I
Sure.
think if I would have had that, but
Well, yeah. And it's,
um,
if we come down to the other ones and we play, Earthbound for the Super Nintendo and eventually play Mother 3, I mean, those games definitely are, superior to this game.
that's what I hear.
Yeah.
I'm
And this-
so excited we started with this one
Yes.
because some people have this debate: which one do I start with?
Yeah.
Because some they do say Earthbound Beginnings can be overwhelming, if you're
Right.
just going into it. But I'm glad I did it, stuck it out, and I just went through it, and
Yeah.
we beat it. And
I
it's
think
awesome.
that a lot of times you think of like Nintendo games, and they're usually less forgiving than like the Super Nintendo and later on games. You think of like a lot of old school Nintendo games are just tough in general. So I feel like an extra sense of accomplishment on this game because of that.
Yes.
And then it sets us up and gives us a better idea of what it's going to be like playing Earthbound for the Super Nintendo and eventually Mother 3 on the Game Boy Advance.
Yes.
And I think that's really cool. And like you said, playing this first makes the most sense because it gives us so many of those different pieces of it.
Yes.
And as we get further on to the other ones where the story becomes much, it's more thorough with the story and you get to see like all the advancements coming forward and all this extra options. It's nice to play this where it's a little rougher around the edges in different ways. And the story, while there, is not like as constant. It's just like trying to... It's like watching a movie, watching like the Star Wars movie first.
Yes.
It's like, do I want to start with that or do I want to go, jump to a later one? It's like, no, you want to start here and then kind of see how everything's evolved and gives you more options and brings everything more together as, you try some of the later ones. So.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
It's almost like watching your favorite band, like their first album's kind of raw.
Right.
They don't have the production
Yes.
that they'll have in like album 3 or 4,
Yeah.
It's
No, that's
kind of
a very
cool.
good point.
I'm excited to see like the different evolution of it.
Yeah,
throughout it.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
But yeah,
very excited.
Very
about
cool
that.
game. I'm glad we played it. I'm glad the Wii U and Switch have this to
Absolutely.
play. So
Highly
looking forward to the
recommend it.
second one.
Yeah.
So any final comments on it?
Just all I'm saying is I'm just glad we played through this and got to share that. And can't wait for the next round of it. And for anyone out there who isn't sure about it, has heard about Earthbound or Mother, I hope that pick it up and let us know what you guys think in any of our comments there.
Yes, and just stay with it. Don't get too frustrated.
Right.
Play it, don't go overdo yourself. Maybe sometimes you want to rest when the dad calls you up.
Yeah, exactly. And you can always come back to it and just remember
Yes.
it's not the kind of game where you have to try to do it all in one sitting.
Correct. Yep, give it some time. It's going to take you, it could take you anywhere from 25 to 30 hours. Maybe 20, maybe...
Yeah.
If you're really fast, 15. But
Right.
yeah, I don't recommend that, but whatever.
Yeah, it can be a game
Yeah.
where it can sometimes be easy to get turned around, but once you know where to go and
Yeah. The map's actually not that big.
No, it's
it
not.
looks overwhelming at first, but it's actually not too big.
Right.
So there's a lot. It packs a lot in there, but it's
Yeah.
not super, super big. So
right. No, I agree.
Which is nice. So, all right. Anyways, coming up, we got another game coming up.
Yes, we do.
And it's a sequel game,
yes, true.
which is cool.
That is true.
Yes. Mario Kart 64.
That's right. You might remember that we did a Mario Kart for the SNES back in the day,
Yes,
and now
yes.
we are
groundbreaking.
to one of the faves from the N64 days. So
Fun
yes.
fact,
Looking
I
forward to
have
that.
never beat that game. I've
Oh,
only
really?
always played multiplayer with people.
Oh, that's
So
funny. Yes.
I'm very excited to go into this game single player and see like what it all entails.
Yes.
So
Stay tuned because this will be probably a little bit sooner than say going through a full RPG.
yes, I agree.
So thank you.
And
guys
then
your
for
patience.
2025, who knows what games
Yes.
we got on the horizon?
Oh yeah, we got definitely we have ones we're talking about and thinking about. So
Absolutely.
we will keep you guys in the loop.
Maybe a fighter or a survival horror or
Yes.
maybe even a RTS, real-time strategy.
That's right.
Who knows?
We got choices.
We got a
stay
lot
tuned.
of choices. All right, I'm Matt.
I'm Travis.
We will see you on the next Retro Review Crew.
Yes, thank you for watching.
Have a good one.
Yes, bye.
Bye.